All right, guys. So, in continuation with our exploring Disney podcast series, which is what I am now officially calling it, by the way. I know I've mentioned it on one other show, and that's the name I like, and that's the one I'm sticking to. We have Lynn Barron from the Sweep Spot podcast. Lynn is the author of two books, Cleaning the Kingdom, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And I got to tell you, Lynn, first of all, thanks for coming on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I got to tell you guys, if you're having any doubts already by hearing about what the book is about and things like that, don't, because I've been reading it. Johnny has as well. And it is actually, especially for the Disney nerds and all of us, a very good read. A lot of interesting things, which we are about to explore with Lynn. He was nice enough to come on and talk to us about a few of the experiences he had working custodial for Disney. So without further ado, Lynn, I am going to start with my first question. I read in the book, and I've heard on some of your podcasts, you grew up in California, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so what made you decide to go into the custodial business at Disneyland?
Well, okay, so I'll kind of rewind a little bit. I actually worked at Disneyland twice. I started there in 1991 when I first got out of high school, and I was at the Plaza Inn. Are you guys familiar with? Have you been to Disneyland?
I have once. Yeah. I've been once.
Yeah, okay. It's just, but you're familiar with Disney World, so it's kind of like the Plaza Inn's the big restaurant that's on the right side. I think it's the same thing at Disney World, near the hub there. So anyways, it's also the backside of it is the In Between, which is a cast member restaurant. So I was a busser there for 2 years, but I was what they called seasonal. So I worked like busy weekends, summers, Christmas, that sort of thing. And I did that for 2 years, and then I was forced to leave. But that's a whole nother story. I was young. I made some dumb mistakes, called in too many times and goofed around. And I was in a band, and that was more important to me, I guess, at the time. So I was fired from Disneyland, and then went back in 1998. And the reason so in between those two things, I was also an annual pass holder. And I remember my mom always saying, you need to go back to Disneyland. You're spending more money there than, you should be getting paid for being there. So I just thought, I don't know. And I forgot all about me being fired would affect possibly me being rehired. So I went and put an application in and heard that custodial was pretty cool because you get to walk all over the park and everything. And I thought, that sounds good. I don't want to be like in a restaurant, like where you just stationary in, one area, or even a ride where you're kind of just pushing buttons somewhere. And I knew I wasn't the type of personality to do like Jungle Cruise or something like that. So I just asked for custodial. But in the meantime, they looked at in the computer and they said, "Oh, you're a no hire status." And so I had to fill out a form explaining why I think they should rehire me. And I guess I had a good enough reason. So I just said I was young and dumb and not mature, and now I am, and I'm ready to work. So they hired me. So that I just started in 1998 and Disneyland Day Custodial.
The inner workings on a simple scale, you go into work and Are you put into a specific land, or is it each land broken up into segments, or how does your day kind of take us through your day a little bit as a custodian at Disneyland?
Yeah. So like on the schedule, you'll get your schedule a week or two ahead of time, and it would say like say New Orleans Square. But so they bunched New Orleans and Critter Country into one custodial land because Critter Country is so small. So it would say NOCC, and then you have your shift. And then when you show up that day, you don't know what your assignment will be within that land. But when you show up, there's a lead, and that's what Ken and I did later on. We were leads, but the lead would assign like what you're doing for that day, and it could be sweeping in a certain area within New Orleans Critter Country, because then they would break it down into New Orleans, which would be like the streets in between, like where the exit of Pirates is, and the streets within New Orleans Square. Then there'd be a mansion, and that's around the fountain in front of Haunted Mansion and out in front of Mansion. And then there'd be Critter Country. So there'd be different sweeping areas, and you would just be sweeping the whole day. Or you could be dumping trash, and you'd be dumping all the trash cans within those areas that I spoke of. There's another thing called lines, and all that person does is go through the lines and sweep up trash. So, yeah. So basically, every area has those things. It's broke down, like Adventureland, Frontierland is one custodial area. Now, this is all kind of changed from what I understand recently. Not a lot of it, but some of it has changed, obviously, with some of the changes. And the parks was growing before the pandemic. The park was, just super crowded. So they had to make some changes. So.
Now, was there a specific, it's probably going to sound like a silly question, but was there a specific area that was like coveted more than another to work a shift? Like, was it better to work at the mansion as opposed to Tomorrowland or things along that line?
It seemed like everyone had their own preference. Like, because then there's restrooms. You could be scheduled restrooms. And then as in men's restrooms, you'd be scheduled you wouldn't know again until that day which restrooms you'd be cleaning, but you could get maybe 2 or 3 restrooms and you just keep rotating through them. So you're supposed to hit those restrooms within each hour. So some people really liked restrooms. I did too, but you also got 75 cents more an hour for doing restrooms. And I didn't think they were that big of a deal. But some people didn't like, cleaning up some of the things you find in restrooms. And some people like parade cleanup. We had parade cleanup, and you just follow the parade and clean up along the parade route. I didn't like that, but some people did. So it kind of evened out on what there was. Like the parking structure, some people like being away from all the guests, and I like being around all the action. So I didn't like being over there.
Like what's like the good and bad? Like what's the highs or like what's the best part about that specific job, or the worst part?
Oh, okay. So I think, like I had said, in Custodia, you get a chance to be everywhere. And I think we know the park better than almost anyone. Maybe security might know it better, but other than security, I think we probably know it just as good. We know all the different secret pathways and behind the scenes. And there had been a time where we got to walk through some of the rides at the end of the night, like Haunted Mansion, which was pretty cool to see everything up front, to go down in the ballroom scene and see that up close. I mean, you can't do that in, very many departments. So yeah, I like the freedom of that and being able to be out amongst the guests, and you can answer questions, and you're just outside doing. But the worst part probably would be some of the cleanups you have to do. Now you kind of get used to it. We call them Code V, which was vomit. So, but you get used to it. Like they got to the point where I had just eaten lunch and they called me on the radio and said, I have a Code V over at Space Mountain. So I go over there, clean it up, no problem. Some people be like, oh, I can't do it, but
yep.
You get used to it. But I'd say that's probably some of the worst, about it.
Now with you being able to like you said, you went in the Haunted Mansion. Does that like ruin a little bit of the rides for you, like knowing the inner workings of them?
No, I don't think so. At least for me, it
no.
Some people, they said they did, but I think it enhanced it more because then you look and see how it's not very complicated. Some of the things they did. I mean, some of those tricks and stuff they did, like Pepper's Ghost, is so simple. Nowadays, they would use like lasers and projections and things, but they didn't have to do that back then. And they still use, the ghosts still look really cool in the ballroom scene. And it's just your basic glass reflection kind of things. Like Peter Pan, just to give an example, and this might ruin the magic for some, but the clouds are like white trash bags, the little cars down in the London scene are bicycle chains painted with fluorescent paint, like little dots on it. It's just moving along on a chain. So just to see stuff like that, go, wow, that is so cool. I thought it enhanced it for me, but yeah.
That makes me want to ride a ride more when I know that. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
exactly right.
You kind of worked at a time where, I think anyway, and correct me if I'm wrong, where Disney was still kind of in its, lack of a better way to put this, golden age or still a very good age for what you got as a perk as a Disney employee. Does that sound about right?
I know what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
So what would you say were some of your favorite perks, and just take us through some?
Well, the one that comes to mind right away when you were saying, like, because I know where you're heading with that, like the Christmas party they would do for the cast members. And it wasn't just Disney cast members. They would also include the studio and Imagineering into our Christmas party. And it was cool because they would close the park at like 6 o'clock. And then we can come in at 7 till like midnight. And you can bring a guest with you. And they would have like all the menus had reduced prices, like churros. I think they were like $1 at the time or something. And so, yeah, I mean, everything was cheaper and the lines weren't very bad. They would always run at least one, the Christmas parade at least one time. It was just fun. And then working there, because they would do it like 2 or 3 different nights. So then usually you'd have to work one of the nights. And I actually enjoyed that because the managers, everyone was pretty laid back and they'd let us go on rides. And technically we probably weren't supposed to, but if our area was kept up clean and we went on a ride in our costume, which was always felt weird. Because you're around other cast members, so it was kind of cool to be there for that. And then one of the most memorable ones was, the last scene of Soaring Over California before they changed it, where it flies. There's a flyby down Main Street and above the castle at the end. They filmed that at one of the Christmas parties that I was at. We were all just on Main Street lined up, and they said, "Don't look up," and the helicopter flew down Main Street real close. It was really cool. And so they used that footage for Soarin'. So I'm in there somewhere. I don't know where. That was like Christmas. Like, I'm guessing it was like Christmas 2000, maybe 99, 2000, something there.
Now they prepare you kind of like they do with a studio audience, where they're like, "Oh, we're gonna do a flyover," kind of look excited, or just be casual or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, just act like because they had the parade stationary, the float stationary on the parade route. So you're supposed to be like you're watching the parade. So, yeah, It was cool. I would say that's definitely a perk. But you know what? They don't do that Christmas party anymore because things have been cut so huge, the company. And I honestly don't think they want to close the park and lose money. I know it's sad to say, but they do it in a different way, but it's not like that anymore, unfortunately.
I'm curious, what is it like to be in like a Disney park at the end of the night when nobody else is there? Like, is it freaky? Like, I don't know, is there like
A little bit, yeah.
things that are strange about it?
You get the rides as well. That's another follow-up to that question.
No, but there's been a few times where I was sweeping out a line like at Big Thunder, and the ride operators, the end of the night, they were getting ready to close it down. They had like 5 minutes left and no one's in line, and you guys want to ride? We're like, okay. So, but yeah, it is kind of freaky at night, depending on where you're at. If you're down in Critter Country where there's like no one, it gets a little weird down there. Then I had early mornings where we would open up the park and it'd still be dark when we arrive. So I don't know though. It's also had a peacefulness about it that I enjoyed also.
So how true is it? They actually release cats every night in the park?
No, they don't release them. They're already there. The cats feel more comfortable when there's no one there. So they just kind of come out and do their thing. But
I just assumed. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Because sometimes if the cats become too comfortable with cast members, like they'll come in the back areas where our break rooms are and stuff, and people pet them and stuff. Then they get too comfortable around humans, and then that's why you'll see every now and then there'll be a cat like in the middle of the day, like run across the area, and someone go, "Hey, look, there's a cat," But that's part of the reason why they do that.
So in these Christmas parties or any of these events that you were able to go to, which for some of you who are listening that aren't familiar with the book, there was a part where Lynn had spoken about going to see the Sherman Brothers kind of do almost like, for lack of a better way to put it, almost like a private show, right?
Yeah.
Where pretty much cast members and,
just cast Cast member, yeah.
Oh, was it just cast members?
Yeah, just cast members.
Okay.
It was like a thing like during the day on like a Tuesday or something, and they announced it. You can come and see this, but there wasn't as many people as you think would come to something like that. There was maybe 100, 200 people, but I don't know.
Who would be the most notable, either famous Imagineer or celebrity even, that you came across at any of these particular gatherings or events?
Probably that one, probably the Sherman Brothers, because they were doing a book signing for their book Walt's Time, and they were both there. And as you know, Bob passed away. It's probably been a little while now, but he was there. David Mumford, I believe, was there, and he helped write the book. I don't know if you're familiar with the Disneyland the Nickel Tour. He wrote that one, and he's passed away too since. So it was just amazing to realize that these guys, as they're playing song after song, you're like, wow, it's like my whole childhood. I mean, yeah, just amazing.
That seemed like it would have been pretty much any Disney nerd's dream to be at something like that.
Yeah.
When celebrities come into the park, we've all heard the stories of how they get them around and do all this stuff. More familiar with kind of how they do it in Disney World with the utilidors and things like that. How exactly did they do it in Disneyland? And were you able to meet any of the celebrities while you were working there?
I didn't really meet any. I've said hi to a couple, but they kind of discourage us from getting in any kind of conversation with them unless they approach us. But yeah, they just they go around with the guest relations, and if they're really big, they'll have security or their own security with them. Like I saw Cher, and she had like a huge amount of security. But and then I saw Michael Jackson when I worked there the first time. So when I was at the restaurant at Plaza Inn, the end of the night, I saw this big mob of people walking fast, and they were all security and like trench coats and stuff like that. What's going on? And I looked right in the middle. You could see his shiny hair, and he had a hat on and stuff. But I was like, oh, I know who that is. But yeah, and you'd see him. I can't remember all the ones, but I've seen like Sylvester Stallone, and I was like, wow, he's shorter than I am.
Nice.
But yeah, I would say, if you're a baseball fan and like the Dodgers, I saw Tommy Lasorda, and he was one of the coolest guys. He's always, how's it going? In his voice. And I say, good, how are you doing? It's pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, so there'd be people like that I'd see. And Kobe Bryant, he stands out in the crowd, obviously. And,
yeah.
Saw him there, I think twice, but yeah.
Nice. Well, rumor had it, I heard Michael Jackson visited quite a bit.
Yeah. There's probably almost every custodian that you talk to has seen him at one point during that time period, like the 90s, 80s, 90s.
Now, were those celebrities, could they rent the park out for their own hours if they were like someone like Michael Jackson, for example? I know you said he was there during the middle of the park, but could he do that?
I think he rented it out for Elizabeth Taylor. I think it was in 92 for her like 60th birthday or something. Oh. And they had all these celebrities there and everything. And I heard, I was in custodian at the time. I was in restaurants and I didn't get to work that night, but because our restaurant wasn't open. But I had heard that custodians, like, they were wearing like tuxes and stuff. So there was kind of a higher event. But I don't know if because I know that he's been there after hours. So I don't know if he like rented like, because Pirates of the Caribbean, I think, was one of his favorites, and Peter Pan. So I don't know if if he, I don't know if to say rent it out, but maybe was able to stay longer. They just pay the cast members on those attractions that he wanted to hit a little bit longer. I don't know for sure though.
We hear cast members like they're allowed to like make magic for a little kid or other guests. Do you have any like memories of the things you were able to do to help out like a younger guest or any guest in general?
Yeah, someone dropped their little, like, I don't know if it's like a fanny pack or some kind of a little bag, and in the moat in front of the castle, and I was able to get one of these real long pickers that we have and get down in there and pull it out. And obviously probably a lot of stuff was ruined in there, but they were really happy to have it back, obviously. Credit cards and things. So That's one that stands out. Um, there was one that was a bad situation that turned good because of um, I think I've told this before. It's in the book, but there was these two kids running in Frontierland, and there was a code V in the middle of the pathway, big, like I don't know, like 3 feet wide. And I was standing there so I could get another custodian to go get something so no one would step in this mess. And these kids were like just running. And I'm like, slow down, no running. And they ran right past me and said, we got to go or something like that. And they slipped right in the code B, got all over their clothes.
Oh, man.
And I was probably a jerk for saying this, but I'm like, I told you to slow down.
Well, you did.
And so how I made it good was that I was able to get them, and you could do this for guests, a pair of sweats and a t-shirt out of a store for them to change their clothes. Then I put their clothes in a bag so they could take it home, or throw it away or whatever they wanted to do. But so I guess I turned like I said, a bad situation to a good one, but I didn't have to do that. But I felt bad for him.
One of the things I seen in the book, Lynn, you had spoken about, I wasn't sure if it was you or Ken that was writing at this particular moment in the book, but you were talking about the perks you got as far as passes to the parks and things like that. Now, if you went, because they had perks to go to Disney World as well. Now, I think it said something along the lines that you weren't charged. It didn't count against the days you had if you were to go to the other coast.
Right. It was like this unspoken thing that if Disney World customers came to Disney, so back then it was just a stamped card. So the customers at the front gates would stamp the date in these little squares, and you were allowed 3 people each time, up to 16 times. So now they would probably have to scan the card and it would go against you. But back then it was just a stamp, and they wouldn't stamp your card. Like I went to Disney World for my honeymoon, and they didn't stamp my card, and I went to all 4 parks, so multiple times. So, and then I heard that Disney World customers would go to Disneyland and they wouldn't stamp their cards either. So, which is kind of cool. And then, like I said, we could use those cards for Disneyland, California Adventure, to sign people in 16 times in a year, up to 3 people each time.
Nice. So that was more of the rule. Okay, so the rule for that, what was going on in Disney World was kind of an unspoken,
right?
You scratch my. Okay.
Yeah,
I got you.
Which is cool. I mean, because you work for the company. And it actually made a vacation like that fairly cheap.
If you went on vacation to Disney World and you'd still were you working in Disneyland, were you able to talk your way to a cast member and they could maybe take you backstage at Disney World? Were you able to finagle that?
No, I may have been able to, but I had only been working, like when I went, I had only been at Disneyland working for a year, so I was still a little bit cautious on things like that. But I wish I had. I probably could have talked to a custodian, there, and
just to see if you could see if anything is similar in the backstage areas or whatever.
Well, I would have liked to have seen the utilidors. That would have been cool.
How often, because you're still on the West Coast, you were talking before that we started, and you were saying you were in Utah, roughly 6 hours away from Disneyland. So do you still go to Disney World from time to time, or?
Disneyland, you mean?
No, I'm saying, do you? I know
Disney
you
World.
Yeah, do you ever go?
Oh,
do you ever go? No.
I've only been that one time in 1999.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Oh, all right.
It is like a year after Animal Kingdom, and then what was the newest thing then? Oh, like Test Track was like one of the newer things then.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to, but it's expensive to go to the other coast.
Yeah. You were not joking there.
Yeah.
Now, how was your if you just want to compare, how was your comparison? Just like Magic Kingdom, I guess. Was there anything you liked? I don't want to say better, but is there anything you liked, that compared the 2 Magic Kingdoms? I guess. What was your opinion of?
I think my opinion was it was big. It was just huge. Everything was so spread out. It was almost overwhelming. And I was only there for 5 days. So I wish we had been there longer. I didn't have any idea. This was before like internet and podcasts and all that. I think I had the unofficial guide, and that was the only thing I went by. I circled all the ones that sounded like they were cool to go on, and the ones I was familiar with, because I wanted to compare like Space Mountain and Thunder and all that. And I do have opinions on which ones I think are better, but I think Haunted Mansion at Disney World is probably better. I think Space Mountain's better at Disneyland. I think Pirates is better at Disneyland.
Yeah.
Thunder Mountain, it's about the same. But I noticed that all the left turns are right turns and all that. It's just the opposite at Disneyland. So like when you first go down the first, you go through the little cave thing and you go down the first drop at Thunder, it turns right at Disneyland. At Disney World, it goes left. So it's kind of weird. So and then there's things like they didn't have, like Carousel of Progress was so cool because that's historical, and that used to be at Disneyland, but until 73, I think. But I don't know. So there's different things I thought were better and not. But I think the one thing that I noticed that I like about Disneyland is that Walt was there. Walt walked through it. His hands are over a bunch of the things. A lot of the original Imagineers helped build Disneyland. And obviously they were learning. I mean, it's technically one of the first theme parks. So they wanted, they learned a lot. They built Disney World and made things wider and, had more land and this and that. But I think they're both good. They're just, they'll have their own unique things to it. I wouldn't say one's better or the other, but well, maybe I would. Yeah.
We still have the People Mover, so we got that up on.
I know. So jealous. You have a couple of things that I missed from there. The People Mover, Muppet Vision. I like all that.
Country Bear.
I wish they give the Disneyland people that People Mover back.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just a big thing, and it just brings Tomorrowland together.
They can't though. It's just the way that they messed it up when they put that rocket rods in.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
It's just messed all the infrastructure of all those buildings. I mean, literally, I was there when Rocket Rods was running, and you'd walk down some of the hallways where it goes over, and the whole place just shaking. You're like, oh my gosh, like ceiling to like.
I can't believe they made that mistake.
Yeah, it just wasn't made for something that high speed. I mean, it's like putting Test Track on your People Mover track because it wasn't made for this. All the turns you'd slow down and go around the turn, then it'd speed up on the straightaways. So. They had a lot of problems with the tires breaking and pieces falling off into the area. And management at that time, the higher management in the park made a lot of bad mistakes. In 1998, Tomorrowland and California Adventure are two of the things that really suffered, I believe, because they were cutting so many things out. So if they had just spent the money in the beginning, then they would be talking about redoing Tomorrowland or having to redo parts of California Adventure, like the Buena Vista Street and adding Cars Land and Tower Terror. Like those are all the things they added at California Adventure because it wasn't doing well in the beginning.
So Lynn, we ask all our guests, so we're going to ask you as well. What are your top 3 favorite attractions at any Disney park?
So I'm probably just going to stick to Disney. Well, I'll stick to Disneyland because I think these can also be for Disney World. Well, except for I would say probably my favorite is Pirates of the Caribbean because that was like just amazing how many animatronics and just the immersiveness of it and everything. It's a classic. Haunted Mansion, probably number 2. And wow, this is hard. Number 3, I'm going to say, man. So you got me on this one because now you got to narrow it down.
See, this is never as easy. Everyone who you ask
I know.
Kind of ready to go, and then it's never as easy as it seems.
Well, 1 and 2 is easy, but then now, three,
exactly.
It's like, so I have like Indiana Jones running through my mind, Space Mountain, Big Thunder Mountain. I like the Tiki Room too.
We had one guy take all the mountains. He cheated. He's like, I'm cheating. I'm taking all the mountains. I'm like, you can't do that.
You can't do that. I don't know. Rise of Resistance is actually really cool. But I don't know if it's just because it's new that I would want to pick that one, but I think I'll go with that one.
I haven't put it in my top 3 yet, which we did a show where we actually shared ours too. But mine was Tower, Pirates, and Haunted Mansion.
Oh, Tower. Yeah, I forgot
But
about Tower.
I guess I'm gonna have to rethink this soon because that's gonna
Mhm,
maybe I
mhm.
just haven't written enough. Just before COVID, we had gone in that January, so January 2020, and I got on it 3 times in one trip.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went 3 times, like at 6 in the morning, like really early in the morning, and got
Yeah,
on it.
yeah,
I love Star Wars, and
yeah.
it was great, but it just hasn't quite sunk into my, I don't know, into my top
I know
three
what you're
yet,
saying.
guess.
I know what
I
you're
don't
saying.
know.
It's still new, and I know what you're saying. And yeah, I was able to go on it 4 times before. And so for Disneyland, it didn't open until uh, end of January. I think it was like January 31st or something like that.
Mm.
And my last trip there before everything shut down was middle. So I went in February for the My Chat did an event, and then in March. And each trip I went on it twice. So yeah, I've been on it 4 times. So, and then the park shut down like a week later after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even
So
think.
really, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rise has only been open technically for like less than 2 months.
Yeah.
Well, until now. So now it's open.
Until you said that, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is
Yeah,
kind of
and
weird.
Now there's like it's modified at Disneyland now because it's got a main in that like
15 minutes or something.
minutes of-
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what they did? Because I haven't been on it, but I've heard from friends that they take you. So the Ray part,
Mm.
like that doesn't even, they don't even use that anymore. They just go right through that room to the shuttles,
For the shot. Yep.
and then the shuttle, they push you along in the Star Destroyer, where they push you through there fast, and then they don't make you wait in that hallway and put you in like colored groups and talk to you and all that. They just tell you right away, like, boom, go,
Oh.
and then you go into the interrogation, and then you're on the vehicles and you're going. So I heard they just speed everything up.
Yeah.
The hall, which I guess is better than. I mean, they did cut one thing out, but
Yeah.
they could have cut more out. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bummer. I mean,
I know,
obviously
it
there's
is.
a pandemic. I get it, but that ride is, to me, top tier as far as really,
Mhm.
really kind of getting you in the story. And I
Right.
think you miss some of those elements. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when it's running at its normal length, isn't it like 20 minutes or something?
It's close. Yeah.
It's
I like
great.
that.
It's great.
I know.
I wish hopefully they do more rides, no matter
One
what
thing
they
I
are,
worry
like
about,
that.
the thing I worry about with that ride, and you're Star Wars fans, is they kind of it's kind of stuck in a time,
Mhm.
like to the what is it,
Yeah.
in between episode like 8, 9, or somewhere
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, I guess they could change it out, but they'd have to change a lot of the story, and the animatronics and stuff to
Yep.
change it. That's my only concern, is like, is that still going to be exciting, that those characters, Kylo Ren and stuff, in 20 years?
Yeah. Right.
I don't know.
We spoke about it on our podcast a few times about kind of the same thing you're saying. And
Yeah.
I often bring the question up: would it have been better to just make Star Wars, to theme Star Wars Land in a time where the original trilogy was taking place, as
Right.
far as way more fans wanting to come to see it, first of all, because a lot of people don't particularly care for the sequel trilogy, and also, like you said, you'll never have that problem because I could go on a ride that took me through the Death Star, for example, and then past Darth Vader and Palpatine for the rest of my
Yeah.
life and never get sick of it.
But I thought about that too, and I agree with you. But then I was thinking, like, because I have a 14 or 13-year-old son, and I thought, you know what, maybe those trilogies, the ones that you're talking about that maybe aren't as popular to us older folks, that's like their movies, So, because like I grew up with the original trilogy, because aging myself, but like when Empire came out, I was probably, I don't know, I was probably like 8 years old or something, but then what was it, the next one? So they did episodes 1, 2, 3, and those were like in late 90s, early 2000s, and I wasn't as interested in those as much as I was on the first 3. So does it have to do with maybe what you grew up with? I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah,
Because there is a group of people that the episodes 1, 2, and 3, that's their Star
Right.
Wars. But so
I don't get it, but that's cool.
No.
Yeah, I mean, those are I don't know about you guys, but those have kind of grown on me a little bit now over time. They were at first I was kind of like appalled by by them a little bit, but I don't know. They've kind of made their way into the story, into the canon for me, and I don't know. So maybe you're right, Lynn. Is basically what I'm saying. Maybe that will be something that kind of becomes a thing in another 10, 15 years. I don't know.
Maybe.
I mean, Kylo's cool. I think.
I like the character. Yeah, I like the character. Yeah. I mean, are they going to do more with him? It doesn't seem like it. I mean,
no.
He's gone, right? He died. So, I mean, that doesn't stop. That doesn't stop them though. They're still doing Marvel movies with people that died. But,
yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
They can do anything they want, right?
Right.
All right, Lynn. Before we let you go, you want to tell everybody where we can find you and where we can buy your book?
Yeah. So, not only am I an author, I have a podcast, like you said, the Sweet Spot podcast, and we're up to episode, the next one will be episode 309. And we've been doing it for 10 years. We just celebrated our 10 years. Been doing it with Ken most of that time. I had a different co-host before that because Ken couldn't commit to it at the time I wanted to start. So I had another lady that was helping me, and she just couldn't commit any longer. Anyways, so I've been doing that, and that kind of evolved into the book series because when Ken and I were doing it more regularly, we were talking about, we should write a book, we should. So it was easier to compile a book by doing a podcast every week with him. So it kind of evolved from, the podcast to the book, which helped cross promote each other. On the book cover, we have a little thing on there that says the Sweet Spot podcast. But so some people have heard about the books from the podcast. Some people heard about the podcast from the books. And so it kind of helps on both ways. So yeah, you can get the books. So the podcast I was talking about, you can find that, wherever podcasts, everyone knows how to find podcasts. If you're listening to one now, you know how to, Apple and all that. And then the books, you can get them on Amazon, both books. But if you want signed copies by both of us, you can get them on our website, thesweetspot.com, and I will mail those out to you personally. If you want a little message on there, I could do that too. You just email me, thesweetspot@gmail.com. Books. Oh, and then we have an audio book, and those are on Kindle too. But we have the audio for the first book, and Ken actually does the narrating for the book. We tried doing it both of us, and it just didn't flow very well. So I just said, you have a better voice, Ken. I'll just have you do the book, and I'll do the editing. And so it's all we did it ourselves. We did the narrating in the book, and then I edited all the chapters together and everything, which was a ton of work. And we're currently working on the second book for the audio right now. We hope to have out sometime this year. We started almost a year ago, so it takes forever. I think that's it. Yeah, just check it out. We always have on our podcast, we always talk about our stories. We also have other cast members on. Like last episode, we had the guys that worked on the keel boats that were in Disneyland. So we have like former cast members from all of our different departments. We've had Imagineers. We've had like Tony Baxter, Bob Gurr, Rolly Crump, Tom Morris. I was watching the Imagineering story. I watched it when it first came out, but I've been rewatching them. I'm like, hey, we've had them on our show. We've had them on our show. It's pretty cool. Just giving you an idea of like some of the shows we've done in the past. And then we try to talk about the history of all the different attractions. And my goal is to hit every attraction before the show's over. And I think we're down to it. We just have a few left now before we've done them all. But yeah.
They did a history of the annual pass program, and I listened to that one on my walk the other day. And just, to add to what Lynn said, it's a really good and very entertaining podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really is. And I listened to that one in particular, and didn't think I could be so entertained by what went on with the annual passes, but it was actually, they were there from kind of the beginning, and Ken and Lynn, when they were talking about it. And it's funny how that evolved and how little it was known, and how it became kind of like the thing. It's kind of a thing today, I'm an annual pass holder. You get a magnet, you get this, you get that.
Exactly.
But, don't take my word for it. Check it out, and you guys will like it a lot. But thanks, Lynn, for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh,
It's a lot of
absolutely. And we will see all you guys next week.